Part 32. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 311. President Liu smiled and said nothing. The host has already stepped onto the stage, started the opening remarks, and then introduced the leaders present. Next, let us welcome the Vice Minister of Commerce, Mr. Chen Liang, with the warmest applause, to address the conference and deliver an important speech. There was applause at the scene, and a man in his 50s walked up slowly, very elegant, and his temperament seemed to be a person who has been in a high position all year round. After taking the microphone, it took a few seconds for the applause at the scene to completely subside. Thank you for coming from all over the country. It's 10:30. I won't say too many polite words. The main purpose of this forum is to bring together top enterprises in the country, to create a platform for communication and cooperation, and to promote domestic businesses thrive and make further efforts. This year, our private enterprises have become more active, and various policies such as bank loans, local subsidies, and investment promotion have been steadily advanced, which is very helpful for enterprises, especially township enterprises. Greater reforms and greater development are not only domestic development, but our company must have an international perspective. In terms of electronic technology this year, it can be said that 100 flowers are blooming. From the beginning of the year to the present, less than 4 months have passed. There are more than 14,000 registered electronic enterprises. At the same time, a number of outstanding companies have emerged in the high-end electronics fields such as Onfan High-End TV, GFN Electronic Technology and other outstanding companies, as well as outstanding representatives of young entrepreneurs. There has been a clear increase, and private business is more active. We will always welcome these healthy and active private enterprises. At the same time, we must kill off some enterprises and individuals who cheat on subsidies, policies, and loans. Since the end of the new year, cases in this area have been soaring, and we have already arrested them. More than 7,400 people. Lu Feng sat down and listened to this statistic secretly. It has only been a few months, and it seems that more than 20,000 liars have to be caught this year. The speech on the stage was more like Mandarin, and some data were released to encourage private enterprises to increase innovation, competition, R/U0026D investment, international integration, etc., and encourage state-owned enterprises to upgrade their industries, abandon old industries, and join emerging industries. Go. The key point is to talk about the oppression of private enterprises by state-owned enterprises and the encirclement and suppression of the market. This kind of thing is not only happening in the electronics industry, but also in many industries. Many people say that the 1990s was an era of gold everywhere. It seems that you can succeed in whatever you do. In fact, it is not. People with no background and only backs cannot withstand this kind of encirclement and suppression. The overall interest of the market is unchanged. If you eat more, state-owned enterprises will have to drink the northwest wind. Although the market is growing, it is still a zero-sum game. The whole speech lasted about 30 minutes, and Lu Feng was applauding almost every minute. He could tell that there were a group of people in this country who were very sober and understood how the country should go and how the business community should develop. Such a big country has become a big country that has attracted worldwide attention. It was not gifted or given by anyone, but it was done by this group of people every day. Thank you very much for Minister Chen's speech, which is very inspiring. Next, please. In the morning, the opening ceremony lasted for 1.5 hours. 3 people gave speeches, one for half an hour. Afterwards, there will be a National Youth Entrepreneurship Award and a National Outstanding Youth. In the last life, Lu Feng won this award, but only when he was in his 30s. Lu Feng was a little tired from sitting there, he swayed back and forth, and suddenly saw Zong in the first row. Next, we will announce the National Youth Entrepreneurship Award. The winners are the chairman of Onfan High-End Technology, Mr. Jiao Onfan, the chairman of Tiankai Technology, and Mr. Chiao Bin. Of the 10 places, it was surprising that none of them was Lu Feng. Mr. Lu leaned back on the chair and said, "Mr. Lu, I don't have your share." "Normal, at my age, it should be the National Youth Entrepreneurship Award," Lu Feng said casually. After the awards were presented and the photo was taken, the host picked up the microphone and said, "Next, we will announce the outstanding young people in the country. The winner is Mr. Jiao Onfan, chairman of Onfan High-End Technology." Award-winning speech. He stayed overseas for several years, resolutely returned to China to contribute what he had learned all his life, actively communicated with foreign-funded enterprises, not only brought back funds, but also brought back technology, filling the gap for the domestic high-end TV technology market, and making the localization of high-end TVs. Let us applaud Mr. Jiao again. Jiao Onfan returned to the stage again, and someone from the audience shouted, "Mr. Jiao is so handsome." The scene burst into laughter. Some people are already shouting that Mr. Jiao is so handsome. Mr. Jiao is indeed the most handsome in the industry, but I think it is more about strength. The host handed the microphone to Jiao Onfan and said, "Mr. Jiao can say a few words. I would like to thank the conference for conferring both awards on me. I deserve it. I am just one of the more outstanding ones. There are many outstanding young people present. I hope that everyone will work together to bring a bright future to the domestic business community." Jiao Onfan couldn't help but set his eyes on Lu Feng as he spoke. There were also many people in the first row looking at Lu Feng. If he was the youngest and the most accomplished, it was really Lu Feng. In the past 2 years, he has been as dazzling as the sun at noon in the business world. If you know a little about his rise, you will be surprised. However, this award has nothing to do with him. Facing Lu Feng, it is impossible for Jiao Onfan to be under pressure, especially recently. He has realized that he is really inferior to Lu Feng in terms of ability. In the original debate, 2 people, 2 directions, created the gap between the two today. With a burst of applause, Jiao Onfan stepped down, and the host continued, "The opening ceremony is officially over. We have prepared a buffet for everyone on the 2nd and 3rd floors. I hope everyone has a good time. At 2:30 in the afternoon, the forum is officially opened, and I look forward to your speech and insights on the industry. Thank you." Lu Feng stood up and moved for a while. Everyone passing by him glanced at him without saying hello. Deputy Minister Chen walked over to take a look and asked, "Are you Lu Feng?" "Yes, hello." Lu Feng stretched out his hand. He shook Lu Feng's hand and said, "I heard Lao Jin say you, young people are very motivated, work hard." "Thank you," you complimented. He glanced at the others and said with a smile, "I can see that your popularity is not very good, I'll go first. You walk slowly." After he left, Mr. Zone came over, stood in front of Lu Feng, stared at him for more than 10 seconds, and said, "To tell the truth, the food industry will be boring without you. Then you can follow me to the electronics industry," Lu Feng said with a smile. "That's not necessary. Without President Lu to stir up the situation, although it is a little more lonely, it is more peaceful." After finishing speaking, President Zhong strode away. Lu Feng didn't wait too long. Sun Yuanking's gang was behind them, and it was not easy to fight. The group of Mr. Wang, Mr. Zhou, and Li Dan who had been in the back row had already rushed over, staring at Lu Feng and wanting to say something. The arrogance, disdain, and arrogance just now disappeared without a trace. Like an avid star-chasing fan. When Lu Feng got on the elevator, Li Dan squeezed in first. When she saw Lu Feng again, she smiled a little stiffly and said, "Hello, Mr. Lu." President Zhou and several people also crowded up. "Mr. Lu, are you going to eat? Let's go together." Mr. Wang suggested, "Let's go out to eat, I'll treat you, let's taste authentic Cantonese food." Then go eat. I don't have time. Lu Feng looked at the crowd and said. Then I'm eating here too. The buffet at this conference will definitely not be bad. Yes, yes, the others echoed. As the elevator door opened, Lu Feng stepped out, others followed closely. Mr. Zhou trotted to Lu Feng and said with a shy face, I'm sorry before, don't take it to heart, this is my sister. Careless, man is a good man. I know, you go to dinner, don't follow me. Mr. Lu, you have such a big industry, don't you have a company that needs supporting? Supply or something, Li Dan said on the side, as long as you need it, I will go back and tell my parents, if you need anything, I will give it to you. Whatever is produced, build the factory wherever you say. Didn't you use the internet? Compared to you, it doesn't matter to me. Lu Feng casually picked up some dishes and got some main food. Just sitting down, President Wang put a glass of water on the table and said, you drink water, because I have eyes and don't know Mount Tai. Aren't you a leader in the electronics industry? Lu Feng looked at President Wang and sneered. Don't, I'm in front of you, don't talk about the faucet, I'm not even worthy of a chicken head. Mr. Wang sat down and said, it's hard to come here, you're free tomorrow, let's go out to eat, I'll treat you, to ask you some things about the industry. Lu Feng shook his head very simply and said, no time. Then can you give me the contact information and call you when you are free? Lu Feng put down his chopsticks and looked at him and said, I gave it to you. If you don't want it, then there's nothing you can do. Well, don't disturb my meal. President Wang's bowels were about to turn blue at the moment, but in order to leave a good impression, he left politely with a few words. Both President Zhou and Li Dan just sat on the same table with Lu Feng with their plates of rice. Halfway through the meal, a group of Yingying Yanyan walked in at the door. Some of the girls were in their 20s, some in their 30s and 40s, and they were very well dressed. A group of people walked in chatting, trying not to attract attention. Both are difficult. What are these people doing? Celebrities, there must be famous ladies everywhere on this occasion. Li Dan probed carefully, why didn't Mr. Lu bring your wife here? She's at home with the kids. When Li Dan heard this, half of the fire in his heart went out. High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 312. During a lunch, there were only 4 people at the table for Lu Feng, and there were more than 10 people around him. Mr. Wang and a few people even stood beside Lu Feng with their plates. On and off, people came to say hello and handed business cards. Different from the unattended when he first arrived, Lu Feng's ears were filled with all kinds of nice words, and when he raised his head to look, all smiles, each more humble than the other. During a lunch, the table was full of business cards, roughly hundreds of them. I'm done eating, you guys eat first. Lu Feng stood up and said. Mr. Lu, do you want to visit my factory? We are also very strong. We mainly make electronic boards, and we also produce TV sets. President Wang followed Lu Feng and said, Linfen is a good place. The cultural heritage is very deep, and the weather is comfortable now, so I will definitely guarantee your satisfaction when I travel. Lu Feng didn't pay any attention, and strode toward the living room. The branch of the electronics industry was in the living room on the second floor. Your factory is so big. I just heard that your annual sales volume will exceed 1.5 million units this year. Such a large sales volume needs to be expanded. My book is fully equipped and rich in industry. 10% equity, with my factory as the production point, is very good for the industrial coverage in the Northwest region. Mr. Wang, as long as I want to open a factory, believe it or not, a lot of mayors and deputy mayors call me to give me 10% of the equity for free, for land, interest-free loans, and tax exemptions. How dare you say that? Come out. Lu Feng stopped and stared at him. President Wang's face twitched, he smiled awkwardly, and said, "I'm ready-made, you can use it as a transition enterprise." "I'm not interested, don't follow me anymore, you know," Lu Feng said solemnly. "Let President Lu rest for a while, and we won't bother," President Zhou said aside. "That's right, cooperation can be discussed anytime," Li Dan also spoke. "Mr. Wang's face is completely unbearable. He is so old, and he is so shy to talk to him. He dares to show no face to himself. I also inquired about you just now, what are you arrogant about? You are just a person who is excluded in the industry. Tell you, it is your loss if you don't cooperate with me. When you lose a friend, you will have another enemy." Mr. Wang said coldly, "Open your eyes wide and give me a good look." After Mr. Wang finished speaking, his face was cold. He strode into the living room, where Jiao Anfan and Sun Yuanqing sat chatting, raising their heads from time to glance at Lu Feng through the floor-to-ceiling glass. President Wang thought very clearly that if it was not possible to take refuge with Lu Feng, then he would stand on the opposite side of him, not to mention that President Sun and President Jiao were more powerful and had more resources in their hands. It's not a job to be a valet for someone, so why not find a big family? When President Wang entered the door, he turned his face and stared at Lu Feng, and smiled twice, as if to say, "You will regret it later." Then he walked in, immediately put on a smile on his face, bowed his waist, extremely humble, took out his business card from his arms, handed it over and said, "Mr. Sun, hello, I'm Roll. I have a grudge with GFN Electronics, I am willing to roll. I am willing to fight against Lu Feng with you." Jiao Anfan took a deep breath impatiently, his face full of boredom, and said, "You deserve it too. Get out and close the door." Mr. Wang touched his nose and walked out and closed the door. He was very angry, but he couldn't do anything about it. He treated the small businessmen who were not as good as him, and this was the same expression. Seeing him like this, Lu Feng couldn't help laughing. In this industry, these people really thought that if they scolded Lu Feng and kicked GFN Electronics, they would be able to drink soup with those companies. There was still an hour before the start of the industry sub-venue. Lu Feng entered a living room next door and sat down to rest for a while. An hour later, a receptionist knocked on the door and said, "Mr. Lu, it's time to come in, it's about to start." Lu Feng stood up and stretched his waist. Through the glass, he just saw Jiao Anfan and a group of people walking out. There was already some fighting intent in his eyes. He chuckled lightly and walked towards the venue briskly. There are many fewer companies in the electronics industry. With the appearance of a number 100 person, Mr. Lu has already sat firmly in the first row. Lu Feng walked over and sat next to him, and said, "Let's talk on stage later. I came to see the fun." My excitement, Lu Feng raised his eyebrows. There are so many people present, it can be divided into two groups, one group is called Lu Feng, and the rest is another group. President Lu closed his eyes and said, "Young man, you will regret it." "I regret it," Lu Feng grinned, patted him on the shoulder and said, "You, take care of yourself first. I am honored to be able to host such a high-end industry sub-venue. All of you are business leaders. I see young talents like Mr. Chiao. Our electronics industry is a very fast-growing industry this year. From TV computers, air conditioners, tape recorders, radios, etc., all inclusive." The host was impassioned and praised the industry. "The future leader of high technology and modernization will definitely be all of you here. I know that there are several heavyweight guests today who will share with us their industry experience and prospects for the future industry. I will not talk nonsense. Next, I invite the founder of Anfan's high-end TV, Mr. Jiao Anfan, to applaud everyone." There was thunderous applause at the scene, only Lu Feng sat there and didn't move. Jiao Anfan stepped up, holding a stack of speech scripts in his hand, looked around, smiled confidently, and said, "As a newcomer in the industry, I am the first to speak on stage. It's a small achievement, but compared with the big guys present, it's like a candlelight fighting against the sun and the moon, so let me express my humble opinion." There was another round of applause. Although only a few months have passed this year, a lot of things have happened in the industry, especially at the beginning of the year. Some despicable people used some dirty means to do a lot of shameless things and poach the core personnel of the enterprise, attacks and smears other companies. In the terminal market, deceiving consumers, using some outdated and obsolete technologies to pretend to be foreign cutting-edge technology, and constantly poking at foreign companies in terms of publicity and naming, etc., is a serious violation of the advertising law. Continue to bottom out and suppress prices. In the past few months, the chaos in the domestic electronics industry has made people stunned. The establishment of enterprises has relied on leverage, and with 100 million, enterprises worth several hundred million have been leveraged. The source of funds is unknown, and misinformation is constantly being sent to the market. Everyone knows that the electronics industry is a high-tech industry, which requires a lot of funds for research and development. The excellent foreign technology is due to a large amount of capital investment. Now in the era of such a low-quality product on the market, high-quality products are eliminated. What do we take? To research and development? This will form a vicious circle, and the domestic electronics industry will never rise up. And some people will always be nailed to the pillar of shame. I hope everyone will open their eyes and look at the current state of the industry. All companies have been involved in a vicious competition with no bottom line, throwing away morals and conducting false propaganda. Lose face, use low-end technology, deceive consumers, lose conscience, and harm the entire industry. Xiao Anfan was very excited when he said that, and at one point he spat out, and he almost scolded Lu Feng with his finger. I hope that someone will reflect and act on their own. Don't play tricks and see the industry trends clearly. Thank you everyone. Xiao Anfan walked off the stage and shook hands with everyone one by one. In an instant, there was thunderous applause from the audience, and some even stood up to applaud. The scene was extraordinarily warm. Xiao Anfan shook hands with the bosses in the front row. When he arrived at Lu Feng's place, he jumped over and shook hands with Mr. Lu next to him. It's a very good speech. As expected of a young talent, he has a lot of ideas about the overall situation of the industry. Next, we will invite the general manager of Changhong Electronics, Mr. Sun. Sun Yuanqing stood up, and when he came to the stage, he kept his eyes on Lu Feng, took the microphone and cleared his throat and said, "Anfan, they have studied abroad, they are more literate, they did not name names or surnames, I think it's better." "Bro, what do you think, President Lu?" Everyone at the scene was staring at Lu Feng. Everyone's expression was different. Some hated him, some laughed at him, and some felt pity for him. With so many people staring at him, Lu Feng was calm, smiling and ignoring him. Every industry has its own disaster. I have been thinking for a while, maybe this is the disaster of our industry. With more and more companies pouring into the industry, there must be all kinds of monsters, but I believe this is temporary. It's impossible for GFN Electronics to bring down the entire industry. It's a huge momentum now, but it's strong from the outside, and its development model is very general. It relies on low prices to go into the market. If I'm not wrong, Mr. Lu thinks. Are the profit margins approaching zero? The industry will still develop steadily, but in the future, there will be more and more companies like GFN Electronics. It is because of these opportunistic people, so I have been calling for strengthening industry supervision. I'm not worried about the industry, I'm more worried that a high-leverage company like GFN Electronics will be a disaster once it collapses. His principal is only 100 million, and the rest of the money, I don't know where it came from. Once it goes bankrupt, it will involve a lot of supporting enterprises, and there may be a wave of bankruptcies. Under the chain reaction, it's like a domino, and it falls. Friends, this is the most deadly part of the industry. It's not terrible for a GFN Electronics to fall, but it is terrible to bring a large number of supporting enterprises down. It will be the end of the industry. I hope you will actively report the problem when you go back, write a report when it is time to write a report, and don't let a lot of GFN Electronics pop up, it will really be too late. I'm done talking. Wow. The applause broke out at the scene, and some people stood up and clapped their hands all red, and their mouths kept shouting okay. President Liu turned his head and chuckled, someone wants to push you to the guillotine. High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 313. Lu Feng was sitting there sinking like water. He had thought about everything now, but when all this really happened in front of him, it was impossible for him to be in a good mood. This is not an industry conference, this is Lu Feng's criticism conference. The host originally thought that Jiao Anfan was young and had some personal grievances. However, when a state-owned enterprise executive like President Sun came to power, he directly named and scolded him, and the scene was a little out of control. The host glanced at Lu Feng, because he was the next speaker, picked up the microphone and said, "Every boss is worthy of being the best among the people. For some issues, you really hit the nail on the head, which surprised me. I can see it, everyone. It seems that Mr. Liu of GFN Electronics has a little bit of remarks. Since that is the case, let us give a warm applause and welcome Mr. Liu to make a response. Everyone is welcome." The whole place was silent. Lu Feng stood up, took off his jacket outside, put it in his position, took the host's microphone, stood there for more than 10 seconds, and looked at everyone present. At a glance, those in the front row stared at him, while some in the back row, when Lu Feng stared at him, couldn't help but look elsewhere. Still guilty. I won't introduce myself. Everyone hates me to the core. I think it's a good thing. Mr. Jiao, a returnee from the sea, can actually use such vicious words to describe a person. Demeanor, small person. Lu Feng looked at Jiao Anfan with a smile and said, "I didn't know what a hypocrite was before, but you interpret this role very well. As for saying that I broke the industry, I have to talk to you. Who is there? Drag the back of the domestic electronics industry, host, bring me a stick, someone will be scolded in a hurry and want to beat me, I also have a self-defense." "Ha ha ha, Mr. Liu is really good at joking," the host said with a smile. After speaking, he found that the atmosphere of the whole scene was about to freeze, and there was an indescribable sense of tension in the air. "Go get it." The host found a stick and handed it to Lu Feng. Lu Feng weighed it in his hand, and said, "Now you will feel safe, don't rush up if you are older, be careful with my stick. I've drawn you to meet the King of Hell, alright, now it's time to officially start. Let's talk about poaching people from other companies, this is shameless. Please explain to me, what is shameless? I will give you higher wages, higher benefits, and development prospects. What's wrong with people changing jobs? It's a habit to be a goddamn landlord, right? Someone signed a sales deed for you. Why can't you change jobs? Hiring people is shameless. What company are you? State-owned enterprises? You guys have never changed jobs. A group of talented people who have no ability to leave behind are jumping here and scold me for this. I suggest someone to be a real returnee and dive into the sea to wake up. They want people to work, but they don't want to pay more, and they don't want to give equity. Those who say this have brought back the feudal system of landowners who have changed their skins from abroad. People have shit on their heads, and they also ask the other party to be grateful, and shout a few times to thank the company for giving me the right to survive. Lu Feng's mouth was eloquent, and the faces of the people present turned red. These people all hope that capable people will stay in the company for a long time without increasing the cost of employment. Xiao Anfan gasped for breath, stared at Lu Feng, and wanted to stand up to refute, but he couldn't refute. Obsolete technology. What is eliminated technology? Your technology is awesome, it's quack, it's garbage in my hands, and it's worthless. GFN Electronics technology is all authorized by Panda Electronics, I don't know about pandas. Will the boss slap you both when he hears this? The price in the terminal market is low. That's my conscience. When did the world become cheap and become the original sin? On the contrary, there are some companies, who wear tiger's skin and flaunt their banners, what bullshit returnees, what high-end, sell for 8 or 9,000 yuan, don't you blush when you cheat people's money? Your stuff is worth so much money, how do you treat your users? It is estimated that when the other party buys, you stand aside and sneer, calling him a fool in your heart. Is this a business? This is a humming fraud. The domestic electronics industry relies on such fraudsters to support the future? Then I tell you, there is no future. Xiao Anfan couldn't bear the scolding, he stood up and said with his fingers, Lu Feng, don't fart, we are high-end TV, the latest technology, the best service. So this world can only accommodate you, right? I didn't say you, why did you jump out? Lu Feng pointed at him with the stick in his hand and said, what? Want to fight? Come on, grandson, you come up. The host was dumbfounded when he saw it. He never dreamed that on such a high-end occasion, so many bosses with a lot of money would fight like hooligans. Sit down, don't worry, this is a closed-door meeting with no reporters. Sun Yuanqing waved at Xiao Anfan, and Xiao Anfan sat down unconvinced. There are also advertisements, brand authorizations from abroad, can't you? We call Wiped to hurt someone's nerves. Do you have to call Erden or Guwa? I'm embarrassed enough, no put the word high-end in the brand name. As for capital leveraging, I don't care what you choose here, there is still an old man who says to write a report, you write it, I'm afraid you and my surname is not Lu. GFN Electronics' current cash flow is very abundant, and cooperated with dozens of suppliers for stable, most unstable copper raw materials, and we also acquired a company ourselves. Our market sales are very good. Our philosophy is to let all ordinary families use TVs and color TVs to learn more about the world through color TVs, instead of raising the price to an unimaginable level for ordinary people. That is, to the point of forming an identity monopoly for some people. I humming serve the people, understand? To make a good product, a product that the common people can afford, this is the mission of Viputa, and it is also a breakthrough for TV to enter thousands of households. Last year, TV, what's the price of the machine? 5 or 6,000, how many families have 5 or 6,000? We have broken the price to 3,600, and the latest products will continue to bottom out. Regarding the industry mentioned by Mr. Sun, the industry is very chaotic now. I think it is very good. How can we see the light without going through some darkness? Now we are going through this darkness. I, Lu Feng, are not the maker of darkness. I am the opener of the dawn. What do you mean by low profit and no money to do research and development? My profit is low, it is indeed close to zero. Your profit is not low, what price of raw materials you get, what price is mine, you join various associations, various I haven't seen you surpass foreign capital in the field of technology in terms of internal prices. Even some companies are courting foreigners. They leave domestic engineers there, don't give funds, spend money to buy them, and try to curry favor with foreign investors. They just want to get the authorization, and then they fight in the nest. Are you humming human? If you feel that there is a state of hostility between you and me, then continue, isn't it just playing, brothers, I haven't seen any scenes, and I'll play with you, but I want to say, Zyaki depends on diligence, Zonke depends on connections, and big money depends on connections. Wealth depends on power, and the times are rolling in, and everyone is as small as an ant in this era. If you follow the trend, you will have a future. Otherwise, you will only be destroyed. Don't think that if you stand in the team, you will have a meal. The most important thing in this era is to smash the iron rice bowl. It is an industry summit, and I will talk about the future of the industry. Lu Feng looked at the group of people below who were being scolded with flushed faces and bulging blue veins, as if they were going to eat people. He put the stick on the table lightly and said, now there are at least 20,000 to 30,000 electronics companies in the country. This year it is the era of the Great Explosion, then the next few years will be the era of the Great Destruction. In the electronics industry of these tens of thousands, I estimate that only 2 or 3,000 will survive, and then enter a more intense phase of elimination. This phase of elimination will be accompanied by industrial upgrading. Don't expect others to help you, especially foreign capital. The same sentence, there must be the spirit of stealing. The teacher, the master, and the disciple will always hide their clumsiness, not only to learn, but also to surpass. We will send several teams to study abroad this year, and there will be more and more such learning in the future, and I hope everyone present encourages us to create a better future. Thank you. The host clapped his hands on the side, and a few people behind them clapped, but when they saw that only a few of them were applauding, they hurriedly stopped clapping. Lu Feng stepped off the stage without shaking hands with anyone. He walked past everyone, their faces were covered with frost, as if it was the cold winter of the 12th lunar month. Sitting in his seat, Mr. Lu next to him glanced at Lu Feng and said, you still firmly believe in technology, industry, and trade. After many years, you will have a deeper feeling than me about technology, industry, and trade, or trade, industry and technology, Lu Feng said solemnly. Which year will it be after many years? 2017. President Lu frowned slightly. He didn't know why Lu Feng could so confidently say what would happen in 26 years. After a little thought, he felt that he might just say a random number to bluff himself. Mr. Lu's speech is really wonderful. Although the words are a little rough, they are sharper. Next, we will invite the general manager of Conca Electronics. Considering that Lu Feng was on stage with full firepower and the stick was still there, this man spoke a lot more politely after taking the stage, although he still ran on the inside and out. The conference lasted until 6 o'clock in the evening. Everyone had mixed opinions on the current industry. The winners felt that the industry was bright, and the losers felt that the industry would end tomorrow. In the eyes of 1,000 people, there are 1,000 worlds. With the end of the conference, Lu Feng stood up and left. Tonight, the conference prepared dinner and a hotel for everyone. Lu Feng had already booked a flight to Chengdu tomorrow. Arriving at the hotel, having dinner, and getting on the elevator door was just about to close when the voices of several girls suddenly came. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 314. Before Lu Feng could react, a light white hand reached in, opened the elevator that was about to close, and rushed in 3 girls in their 20s. As the 3 entered, the scent in the elevator was tangy in an instant. The 3 were also exceptionally beautiful and dressed in a temperamental manner. They were all about 1.7 meters tall, slender, and wearing long skirts, one of which had a V-neck. Very sexy. I'm on the 13th floor. Me too. Lu Feng reached out and pressed down on the 13th floor, and took his eyes away from the few people. The 3 of them also looked at Lu Feng without looking at them, and started chatting on their own. Have you seen that Gucci bag? Look, it's not cheap, it's several thousand. It doesn't look good either. It's really normal. I'll wait for Lisa. She has channels there, such as LV, Gucci, and Prado. I want that perfume, it's delicious. Perfume does have to be expensive, and I don't have much money this month. This trip was really a failure, I didn't catch a single one. The elevator reached the 13th floor. As the elevator door opened, the three of them walked out with their long legs. Lu Feng couldn't hear what was behind them. As the elevator door closed, Lu Feng chuckled, there are women in gold and silver in any era. But from what I heard from the last sentence, these are not real ladies. In fact, since ancient times, there have been so many routines, and some routines are really unsatisfactory. On the 20th floor, he entered his room, washed briefly, and then called Zhu Lidong and told him that he would be ready tomorrow. Here, let him not move. Then I called Zhang Fengxia and the chief financial officer a few times, and after arranging things properly, I remembered that it was time to call Zhang Xiaoyan. Hey, what are you doing? Lu Feng asked into the phone. What can I do? Teach your daughter to do homework. I quarrel with me every day about homework. There are so many crooked reasons. I'm almost mad at her. Zhang Xiaoyan's voice was full of helplessness. Dad. Mom hit me. There was a lot of crying on the other end of the phone, shouting, she spanked me, I'm going to find you. Why don't you do your homework? I don't do homework to hide myself, yes, otherwise I'm so good, the rest of the class will treat me badly. When Lu Feng heard this excuse, he secretly screamed, damn it, absolutely. Okay, you already understand the truth that Mu Xiu will be destroyed by Lin Feng, so you are the best student in the class, Lu Feng said, children can't lie. I think I will definitely be in the future. Lu Feng rubbed his face with his hands, and such a girl was speechless. He said she was stupid, and he looked for a set of reasons, and he said she was smart. It was all a little clever. Fight, Lu Feng said angrily. Come back and fight yourself. This little guy didn't know what he learned in school. Last time I left her, people called the police, and the police came to ask me if I was abusing children. I can't go back. Now I'm attending a summit in the square. Something happened in Sichuan, so I have to rush over. What happened again? Zhang Xiaoyan's voice was full of loss, and she said, you open your eyes every day, like a fire brigade, putting out fires everywhere. Entrepreneurship, that's it, with the company's stability, I will not only have time to accompany you, but also have a lot of money to accompany you, Lu Feng asked apologetically, you haven't been drinking drugs indiscriminately recently? Bar. No, I don't drink anymore. I'm practicing yoga. They say yoga is for raising a nest. I feel that I'm in good shape recently. You're in Guangzhou, why don't you take time to come back for a few days? I feel it. In your eyes, I am a tool to give birth to a child. You can call me when you need it. You don't even want to say that you miss me, Lu Feng said, a little sour in his words. Zhang Xiaoyan blushed when he said a word. He had pressed the speakerphone button, but hurriedly picked up the phone and said, what nonsense are you talking about? Duo is by your side. Then do you miss me? Zhang Xiaoyan's pretty face turned red. She was the kind of very traditional woman who bit her lip lightly and said in a mosquito-like voice, think. What? Oh, I said, let's talk about something else. I miss you too, Mua, Lu Feng kissed the microphone. Zhang Xiaoyan blushed with shame, looked at Duo and said, go play in the entertainment room. No homework, Duo rushed towards the entertainment room excitedly. Seeing Duo leaving, Zhang Xiaoyan breathed a sigh of relief and said, where is the child? What nonsense are you talking about? It's so rude, how long did you go this time? This is not a story, maybe 10 days, maybe a month or two, things are more difficult. Let me tell you something, Isn't my sister married? Siehung wants to borrow some money and make a few more battles. My mother also called me, and my sister cried and told me on the phone. Zhang Xiaoyan sighed after a sigh of relief. She herself was embarrassed to talk to Lu Feng. After all, Siehung married Zhang Xiaohong, so she was rushing to Lu Feng. Isn't Siehung very powerful in the local area? There is a lot of money in the sand field. My company's finances are very tight recently. I wanted to borrow more than 2 million yuan, but I refused. My elder brother scolded me on the phone. I haven't slept well these days, Zhang Xiaoyan sighed as she spoke. Lu Feng has given them enough, from an ordinary township family to the absolute wealthy class now, they are really not enough. Don't take it too seriously. If you scold you again, you will say that we don't interact with him. Don't stay in the house all day long, go out to play with people, the world of flowers, how wonderful. I met a few kindergarten parents recently. I went to the beach a few days ago. I bought a few clothes and bags, a brand called Versace. It's so expensive. After I bought it, people said the price, I regret it, yes, but so many people were watching, I was embarrassed to quit and spent more than 50,000 yuan. For our family, 40,000 to 50,000 yuan is also called money. It's okay, you can spend it with confidence, Lu Feng comforted. The phone call lasted almost 3 hours, and it was all about some parents' shortcomings, and more about her troubles, what happened when she went to pick up Duo, what happened to the parents of the children, and what new friends she met. It's all trivial matters, but Lu Feng listened with relish, and sometimes smiled knowingly. The warmth of sharing a person's daily life is enough to fill a man's heart with the sun. The call went on until 11 o'clock in the evening. Zhang Xiaoyan transferred the call to the bedroom, and was lying on the bed chatting. She was so sleepy that she fell asleep. Lu Feng listened to the snoring coming from the other end of the phone, a smile appeared on his face, and that smile was not involved in any fake, and penetrated from the bottom of his heart. Good night, my darling. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he hung up the phone and went to bed. This sleep was extraordinarily sweet. In the dream, Zhang Xiaoyan was pregnant with a child. Her last heart disease was completely eradicated. The two lived in a large manor, surrounded by a few children, and their life was so happy. He was really happy in the dream, but he almost overslept in the end. On the plane at 10:30 in the morning, Lu Feng woke up at 9 o'clock. He couldn't remember the sweetness of the dream, so he hurriedly packed up and hurried to the airport. Fortunately, I got on the plane in time and found the seats. The people in front were crowded, and many people complained. The stewardess helped people put things on the side. Don't squeeze, have you ever made a plane, and are you qualified? A sharp female voice shouted, attracting many people to look forward. I would have bought a first-class cabin if I knew it earlier. The people here are so unqualified. The people in front slowly took their seats. Lu Feng saw the three beauties he met in the elevator last night. At this moment, they were wearing big sunglasses and they were still beautiful, but the expressions on their faces were full of disgust. Two of them walked up to Lu Feng and said, "Can you let me know?" Lu Feng stood up and stood on the aisle. The two of them sat inside, and one of them muttered, "This trip is really a big loss." "That's not it, these old men are really stingy. Yesterday, they chatted with me for a while, and they were very happy. I said that I have been a little nervous recently. Can you take me to eat and spend?" You know what he said? What? He said he was looking for love. I can hum it. Ha 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 ha, a lot of brains are sick. Let me tell you, it's Sister Lisa's information that went wrong. This trip is a serious one, and it's a serious occasion. Those big guys know each other. I didn't see those men, but I saw that our eyes were shining. Come up and return one. A modest son. Can't let go. Yeah, you're pretty good. I spent 7 or 8 thousand to buy tickets, and I lost all my money. Lu Feng sat on the side and listened quietly. Sure enough, wherever rich people gather, there will be these girls. The so-called ladies are secretly doing some kind of assistance. It doesn't matter, I will earn it back next trip. Let me tell you, this time it's the big boss and it's a private club. When did we fall into the clubhouse? It's not what you think, it's a place for the bosses to meet, eat well, live well, and can accompany the boss. I heard that there is a man named Su Dashue, who is very powerful. Master Su? Lu Feng's heart jumped when he heard the name. Zhu Lidong mentioned the name many times on the phone. The boss of the newly established company belongs to him, and he is also one of the richest people in the area. He also participated in several companies such as Changhong and Hokan Copper, and his tentacles were very long. The news that Zhu Lidong gave was that this person was called the local god of wealth and the absolute richest man. Lu Feng thought for a while, then said to the two of them, "Hey, two beauties, do you still remember me?" The two girls turned their heads, took off half of their sunglasses, glanced at Lu Feng, and asked, "Who are you?" "We met yesterday in the elevator of the Regent Hotel." "I didn't expect such a fate to meet here," Lu Feng said to the two of them. The two of them glanced at Lu Feng from top to bottom, and they really remembered that they had seen him in the elevator last night, but the man in the economy class didn't have the slightest charm. High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 315. "Oh, that's quite a coincidence." The two of them said something casually, apparently not showing the slightest interest in Lu Feng. "Dear passengers and friends, everyone, the plane has arrived at the takeoff runway, please fasten your seat belts and take care of the elderly and children around you." Lu Feng fastened his seat belt and said nothing more. As the plane took off and the flight was stable, several flight attendants pushed the carts to distribute tea and drinks to the crowd, and the two next to them were still chatting. The content is nothing more than how much you can make this trip, whether you can meet a boss, and if you can be a lover or a mistress, you will be stable in the next few years. Lu Feng sighed after listening to these contents. These bosses are also pitiful. They found a lover, but they didn't know what they were, and they had to spend so much money. "Sir, what do you drink?" "We have tea, coffee, Coke, juice." "Coke is fine," Lu Feng said casually. "Your Coke, what are the two ladies drinking?" "Coffee." After the stewardess handed everyone drinks, they pushed the cart and continued to walk back. Lu Feng took a sip of Coke and asked, "Are you two going to Chengdu too?" The girl next to him glanced at Lu Feng and said nothing. "I also went to Chengdu, what a coincidence," Lu Feng continued to chat awkwardly. "Hee, this plane is all going to Chengdu." "Yeah, are you here to play?" "Why do you ask me so carefully?" "Does it have anything to do with you?" One of the girls looked unhappy. "As for me, I just came back from abroad and I saw these two beautiful ladies. I just came back to China and I want to meet some friends," Lu Feng said. The two of them rolled their eyes when they heard this. They had never experienced any kind of routine. This kind of routine of pretending to be overseas Chinese and returning overseas girls was too old. "Oh, foreigner. My mother is American. I grew up there, but my heart has always been with my motherland, so I learned Chinese since I was a child. When I set foot on my homeland again, at that moment I felt the call of this land to me." Lu Feng said, his eyes reddened, he covered his mouth with his hand and said, "I'm so. Why, I still can't control my emotions." "Oh, are you really crying?" The girl next to her hurriedly handed over a tissue and said, "It's okay, I'm going home, I'm going home." Lu Feng took the tissue and said 3 grams of oil, wiped his tears, and took a deep breath. "Then do you speak English?" The girl by the window was still suspicious. Lu Feng was the first in the grade in English back then, and he lived abroad for several years in his last life. Looking at the girl by the window, he said, I see a speaky gloss, but I still wa t to speak my law gauge. Listening to the pure English with such a pure accent, the two of them were a little confused, thinking to themselves, is it possible that returnees also fly in economy class? What does this sentence mean? What I'm saying is that I can speak English, but I still want to speak the language of my hometown. Lu Feng picked up the cup, took a sip of Coke, took a deep breath and said, back in this land, I feel that even the air is full of air. Full of freedom, they welcome me. The two nodded their heads like garlic, and now they no longer doubted that Lu Feng was half fake. What do you two call them? Lu Feng asked. My name is Qian, said the girl next to her. My name is Yuan, said the girl who leaned against Lu Feng. Lu Feng glanced at the Yuan girl, she was indeed quite round. What is your name? My name is John Li. My Chinese name was given by my grandfather. It's called Li Nianzu. Unfortunately, the last time I saw my grandfather was when I was a child. When I grew up, I came back twice, both when I was a child. Lu Feng sighed. He said nonsense without even blinking his eyes, his whole person was so natural. It's not easy for people to be overseas. Fortunately, they all come back. What are you doing here? Qian asked tentatively, are you starting a company? Now a lot of overseas rich people have come back to start a big company. I'm young, I just graduated from Ionia this year, Lu Feng suddenly realized that he had said something wrong. Ionia. Yes, I graduated from Ionia College. It is not the core city of the United States, but a place where the rich gather. You have never heard of it? My dad cooperates with Wall Street in finance, and I myself work in Goldman Sachs. The second dispatch is mainly to find some funds in China and invest there. Finance. This thing really involves the blind spots of knowledge of the two girls. They don't even know what finance does, but they just think the word is very high-end. What is finance? Yuan asked. What we do is mainly the stock market and funds, short-term stock trading, risk hedging, market risk assessment, and corporate listings, while funds are monetary funds, international bonds and corporate bonds, with high risk and low risk, but more hybrid fund. Lu Feng introduced. The two nodded vaguely, feeling that Lu Feng really didn't look like an ordinary person, they had never heard of these things. Then this Goldman Sachs investment bank is very rich? Qian asked. The two of them didn't understand anything, so they just wanted to know if the man in front of him was a golden son. As long as he had money, they would be willing to work hard to talk. Goldman Sachs is one of the biggest companies on Wall Street, don't you know? Lu Feng asked in surprise. Yuan asked embarrassedly, how much is it worth? More than 100 billion, Lu Feng thought about it for a while. Goldman Sachs should be this value now. When they were at their highest, they hit over 1 trillion. Hiss. When the two of them heard the number, they gasped for air, and their eyes were a little shocked. 100 billion, Qian couldn't believe it, thinking that Lu Feng was bragging, how could such a rich company exist? Lu Feng looked at the stunned expressions of the two of them, and said two words lightly, US dollars. The word US dollar completely frightened the two girls. Looking at Lu Feng, they felt that he was bluffing them, but they also felt that it happened in the United States, which seemed normal. In this day and age, for many people, the United States represents a person who is intoxicated with money. You are saying that the United States has fought with aliens, and everyone believes it. Then your dad is very rich when he cooperates with such a big company. My family is very average, I can only afford to live in a house with a radius of 3 kilometers, and there are only 108 servants in the house. I sometimes feel that those servants are too pitiful, they can only get $10,000 a month. I don't know how to live, You have to know that this money is only enough to go to the bar to order a few drinks. Lu Feng sighed. Both women are stupid. Is this the gap between people? Why does it feel like the gap between humans and dogs is bigger? Then why are you flying in economy class? Yuan seemed to have discovered a flaw and asked. I have also met some poor people in the past few years. My dad asked me to work, just to show me how the poor live. I also made up my mind to be a poor person, so I bought the cheapest ticket. Lu Feng relied on. He sighed at the location and said, it's really uncomfortable. There is only cola, and there is no basic food such as lobster, abalone, and shark fins. The two girls were a little stunned by Lu Feng's words. When you got off the plane, where are you going? I haven't found a place yet. Let's find a hotel to stay first. We are also looking for a hotel for the time being, shall we? Qian suggested. Of course, it's good to be accompanied by beautiful women. Lu Feng agreed. Dear passengers and friends, the plane is descending, and there will be some bumps in the process. In 20 minutes, we will land in the beautiful capital of Bashu, Chengdu. I wish you a pleasant journey. When the plane landed, although Chengdu in April was not as good as Guangzhou, it was already a bit hot. Qian and Yuan told another companion about Lu Feng along the way. People passing by looked at Lu Feng one after another. The three beauties were accompanied by the three beauties, and the men around them were full of jealousy. After getting into the taxi, Lu Feng said to the three people in the back row, I'm not allowed to spend too much on my trip. I just want to live a poor life, so I'll treat you to stay. I hope the three of you don't dislike it. It does not matter. The three of them were happy. As long as someone treated them, they wouldn't mind so much. Lu Feng said to the driver, Master, just find a 5-star hotel. The master stared at Lu Feng with wide eyes, stunned for a few seconds, and muttered, Young man, this one is bigger than your pretense. The three girls in the back row were all stunned. This is the life of the poor in the eyes of the rich. The poorest life he can imagine is already a day he can't hope for. The three of them looked at each other. The boss was not caught in the last event. Isn't that a golden son who took the initiative to send it to the door? The taxi stopped at the entrance of the Sheraton Hotel, and the doorman opened the door, made a gesture of please, and said, Welcome to Sheraton, distinguished guests, please get off. Lu Feng took out 100 yuan and threw it to the driver. After saying, no need to look for it, he got out of the car dashingly. Walking into the hotel lobby, a girl who looked like a foreman came over and asked, Sir, do you need any help from me? Open 4 rooms. What kind of room do you need? We have standard room, double room, business room, suite. Lu Feng asked with a puzzled face, apart from yours, how big are all the rooms? Is there any room that is 300 to 500 square meters, and it is very depressing to live in a room that is too small? 300 to 500 square meters? The foreman was dumbfounded. Even the suite was only 150 square meters. Qian next to him hurriedly said, he just came back from abroad, and he doesn't understand very well. You can just say the price, and the room is more spacious. Sir, our top suite, the price per night is 1888. So cheap, Lu Feng exclaimed in disbelief, then you can earn money. The foreman froze and didn't know what to say. There were many people who shouted that it was expensive, and that it was cheap. It was the first time I met. I have to haggle. My dad told me that when I go out, the poor will haggle the price. The 4 of us, 4 suites, will live for a month first, and we will have to pay a lot for food and drink every day. 1 person per day counts as 2,000, plus staying here for so long. You are also upset when you see us. Calculating 2,500 a day, plus the wear and tear of the hotel, consumption, etc., the price is 3,000 yuan a day for 1 person. How about it? Everyone in the entire lobby was stunned, staring at Lu Feng like petrified. Reverse bargaining? High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 316. Seeing that the foreman didn't speak, Lu Feng asked, "Aren't you satisfied? You guys are indeed at a loss, why don't I add more?" No, the foreman waved his hand hurriedly, "this price is very suitable. You are welcome to stay at our Sheraton Hotel." All the formalities were handled by the foreman, and there were more than a dozen staff at the scene who served the four Lu Feng, especially Qian and Yuan. Where did the three of them enjoy this kind of treatment? They all looked at people's faces, and at the moment there was a feeling of smugness. Lu Feng swiped his card, and two sweet-looking foremen walked over and said with a smile, "Dear guest, please come with me." Going upstairs and at the door of the room, Lu Feng said to Yuan and the others, "Let's take a shower first, take a rest, it will be noon soon, let's have a meal together." Lu Feng entered the room, put away the expression on his face, put the suitcase aside, found the phone book, sat down and called Zhu Lidong. "Hello, who is it?" "It's me, Lu Feng, I've already arrived in Chengdu," Lu Feng said solemnly. "Are you at the airport? I'll send a car to pick you up now." "No, I have already settled in the hotel. I encountered some situations on the way, and the situation has changed." "You still follow your method during this time?" "I have other arrangements myself." "What's the situation?" Zhu Lidong didn't know what happened on Lu Feng's side. "I feel entangled in the front, and it can be pulled until the end of the year. This is someone else's territory. We can't be held back now, so we need to start from the side." "Side?" Zhu Lidong was a little puzzled and asked, "What kind of side method?" "Now I have turned into a returnee, changed my name to Li Nianzhu, and three young ladies." "Miss," Zhu Lidong on the other end of the phone blew up and shouted, "Mr. Lu, are you sure the side entry you're talking about is the same as the side entry I understand?" Lu Feng covered his face with his hands, the whole person was speechless. "This is not important. Mr. Lu, I can understand you coming out to play. I can understand if I find three. You are young. Now is not the time to have fun. I have prepared the materials here. Where are you? Shall I find you?" You," Lu Feng took a deep breath and said, "that company, didn't you say that Su Dashui took the lead? These three girls went to Su Dashui's hands. I plan to use the high interests of the overseas stock market to engage in a Ponzi scheme, stuck their cash flow." "Is that so? Is the other party deceived?" Zhu Lidong was a little unconvinced and said, "These people are very shrewd." "Don't worry, I'm a veteran in this kind of thing. I'm very skilled. Just do your own thing," Lu Feng ordered. Zhu Lidong on the other end of the phone has nothing to say. He has always admired Lu Feng, but now the young boss feels like a fraud leader. Lu Feng took a brief look at Mr. Su. He has invested a lot in catering, bathing centers, local mining, sand and quarrying, and has invested in some mixed state-owned enterprises. He is definitely a local boss. Moreover, he is also the chairman of the local chamber of commerce. He wants money and money, and he wants prestige and prestige. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng simply took a shower. When he arrived at the restaurant, various sumptuous meals had been served, and there were 2 rows of waiters standing beside him. At a rough glance, it was estimated that there were more than 20 people, each with their hands. "Put it on the belly, and brush it neatly, very neatly." "Hello, distinguished guest, you are welcome to come to dinner," a man with smooth hair combed and bowed with a smile on his face said. "From today onwards, I will be your personal butler, just call me Xiao Wang." Lu Feng sat in front of the long table. After a while, the three Qian arrived. At this moment, the three of them have changed their clothes, put on makeup, and have more jewelry on their bodies, giving people a feeling of jewels. "Hello, Mr. Liu. Let's sit down and eat." I took a look. "The food is average, so you can eat whatever you want," Lu Feng said politely. Qian was very clever, and took the lead to sit on Lu Feng's left, smiled sweetly at Lu Feng. Yuan also took the opportunity to sit on Lu Feng's right, leaving only the girl standing there. She sat down, feeling that she had lost her first chance, and puffed out her chest and said, "Thank you for your hospitality, Mr. Liu. My name is Jian, which is taken from Xiahikali Jian, and a dragonfly has long been standing on it." "Hello, hello," Lu Feng said to the three of them, "You're welcome, just eat whatever you want." The three of them elegantly ate with their knives and forks, and occasionally gave Lu Feng a bite. The three of them didn't understand finance, so they talked about other things, and the atmosphere was harmonious. "Mr. Liu, what are you mainly doing here?" Jian asked. "To put it more generally, it is to find rich people and ask them to invest their money in me. I will help them make money through some of my own relationships and methods, and then take the handling fee from the middle," Lu Feng said seriously towards the three of them. The three nodded in unison, a feeling of sudden realization. "Aren't you very rich? Why don't you make your own money for this kind of guaranteed profit?" Jian found a loophole in Lu Feng's words. Lu Feng glanced at her, coughed and waved to Steward Wang, "You guys go out." "Okay," Butler Wang bowed, waved to all the service staff, walked towards the door in unison, and closed the two doors. Seeing everyone going out, Lu Feng said to the three of them, "This matter requires a lot of money, and it can't be done by a few people. What we need to do is to gather a lot of money and aim at one stock. Charge, buy a lot, and the stock will go higher immediately. At this time, there must be retail investors entering the market and then selling, so as to make a profit." "What do you mean?" I made a simple comparison. For example, a green onion is worth $1, but I know that there are no more green onions in the farmer's land, and the price of green onions will definitely increase in the future. I found a lot of funds and bought a lot of them. Onions, the market price has risen, and other people will definitely hoard them when they see the price of onions keep going up. In this way, the price of onions in the market will be higher. If I raise the price, others will raise the price. This is the profit. When I sell all the onions, I can make a lot of money. My advantage now is that I know that there are no green onions in the farmer's fields. What is lacking is money, do you understand?" Lu Feng picked up his chopsticks and said, "Of course, those harvested are not considered green onions. Chinese chives." The three of them looked at each other and didn't quite understand, but they seemed to understand again. While Lu Feng was eating, he thought that the three of them would definitely want to mix things up when they heard such a good thing, but they didn't expect the three to be indifferent and chatted with Lu Feng about something else. "Actually, this is a short-term investment. You can invest any amount of money. The income is relatively stable, about 15%. Recently, there is a short-term and fast, and you can rebate in 1 day," Lu Feng said to the three of them. "1 day, 15% rebate," Yuan said in disbelief. "Yes, but I want to take 5% of the commission." "If you get it, it will be about 10%," Lu Feng said casually. The three people were really moved when they heard this. They participated in a summit, and they didn't catch a single old man. Their wallets were almost deflated, otherwise they wouldn't have rushed here. 10% of the income is already very good. If you invest 1,000 yuan in it, you will earn 100 yuan the next day. Is there anything faster than this? You can vote anytime, Yuan asked. Today ends at 6 o'clock in the evening. Because of the time difference, I need to go to a special account for your money from China, first to the bank on the other side of Xiangjiang, and then to the other side of the ocean. We are here at 6 o'clock in the evening, and others are there. In the morning, the market opens at 8 or 9 in the morning, understand, Lu Feng said casually while eating. The three nodded, their minds were no longer at the dinner table. After eating this meal for more than half an hour, everyone went back to their rooms. Lu Feng went back to lie down and went to sleep. He was very tired yesterday, but he woke up early today, and he entered the state of lunch break in less than a moment. Jian, Yuan, and Qian gathered in a room to discuss. Do you think it's reliable? I don't think I should lie to us. Our hotel costs 3,000 yuan a day. They are very generous. I just can't figure it out. He is so rich, why would he have to find someone else to pay for it? It's abnormal. Isn't it explained by others, what is raising funds, what needs a lot of money to drive up the market, etc., we don't understand. I feel that finance is something that ordinary people can't understand. Be quiet, Yuan calmed down the two of them and said, I invested this money, and I still have 2,500 yuan on me. If I put in 1,000 yuan, even if the money is gone, I will definitely stay for one night tonight. No loss. Yeah, we don't lose anything. Even if he checks out and leaves for us tomorrow, we'll still make money. Then I'll give it $1,000 to try. I'm not short of $1,000. At 3:30 in the afternoon, the three of them knocked on Lu Feng's door. Lu Feng opened the door with sleepy eyes, and saw the three of them wondering, what's the matter? Mr. Lu, we want to vote. The finance you mentioned, but we don't have much money, only 1,000 yuan per person, Yuan said embarrassedly. It's okay, come in. Lu Feng was secretly delighted that the three of them still took the bait, which was a good start. The three of them sat on the sofa, glanced pointedly at the bedroom, and said to Lu Feng, Boss Lu sleeps alone. Yeah, how many people are there? Lu Feng sat down and said, come on, you are my first batch of customers in China, thank you for your support, I'll open an order for you now, don't worry, the procedures are all legal. The three of them took out 1,000 yuan each, and Lu Feng asked them to go back first, go to the bank to complete the formalities, and after remitting the money, he would give them a receipt and a contract. The three nodded. Jian stood up and asked, Mr. Lu, do you have a girlfriend? No, what's wrong? Lu Feng looked at her. Jian smiled happily and said, it's nothing, just ask, let's go back first. Yuan and Qian didn't look at the pointed eyes very friendly, and the three of them went out. High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 317. Although the three seem to be good sisters, they have only known each other for a few months, and they don't know much. Besides, Mr. Lu has such a big opportunity, not to mention sisters who have been for a few months, even close sisters. Jian went back to the room alone. Tomorrow is the day to go to the private club. Today, Lisa must be contacted. Although the three of them are playing Lu Feng's ideas, they also know that this kind of thing is too risky. They still call Sister Lisa obediently. The key is stable income. What? The three of you met a returnee. Lisa's voice on the other end of the phone was full of surprise. Jian, are you still doing it? Let me tell you, the clubhouse this time is very stable. As long as you stay, you will have a guaranteed minimum salary of 800 yuan, you know. I know, can you slow me down for a few days? Jian asked. Don't talk about it, there's no good thing about betting on both sides. If you can't do it, I'll quickly come over and transfer people. There are many people who want to come. If it wasn't for your good relationship, I wouldn't call you. Jian pondered for a moment, nodded and agreed, and the other two also made the same choice. No one would completely put their hopes on a passerby like Lu Feng. They have been through too much, and all they want is money and stability. Lu Feng put 3,000 yuan in his pocket, went downstairs to find a few printing shops, got 3 fake contracts, and at the same time found a fake certificate, got a bunch of fake stamps and fake ones. Running water slips, fake remittance slips, etc. After 7 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng appeared in the restaurant and sat down to order food when the 3 of them walked in. "I've come across another piece." "Well, the contract is all set. It is estimated that the money has reached the other side of the ocean now." Lu Feng put the 3 contracts in front of them and said, "You all sign it." The 3 of them didn't even look at it, they just signed it. "Mr. Lu, we are going to report tomorrow, we may not be able to live here." Qian said to Lu Feng, "Thank you for your kindness." "Yes, I originally wanted to stay with you for a few more days. It was fate that we met, but the work is tight." "It doesn't matter, you can do your own thing first. Order whatever you want." Lu Feng handed over the menu. "We can just eat whatever you want." Jian handed the menu to the 2 people around him and asked, "Mr. Lu, what are you going to do next?" Lu Feng leaned back on the chair and sighed, took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit a cigarette, looking a little sad, and said, "I just returned to China, and I don't have any connections in the country. People, slowly get used to it." "Are you looking for a rich man?" Lu Feng nodded and said, "Yes, take their money to invest, and then I will take the commission. This is my job. Maybe I can help you, and my work can reach a lot of rich people." Jian hurriedly said. "Really? Then you can pull the cord for me, and I will never treat you badly," Lu Feng said, and a group of waiters walked in with meals. During dinner time, Lu Feng explained a lot of things about finance to them, and gave them a simple training. The development of things was completely under Lu Feng's control. The 3 women were helping Lu Feng to contact Marshal Su step by step. At 10 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng's words at the industry summit have been widely circulated in the entire industry. President Li naturally knows that there is a printed manuscript on the table recording the summit forum. Li Yelong looked at it, and threw it on the table very irritably, and said, "This person is really good at talking. If I were at the scene, I would go up and smoke him." "Don't you think what he said makes sense?" Mr. Li said in a calm voice. "He's right." Li Yelong was dumbfounded, how could his father speak for him? "Yes, but the world is never decided by who has reason. It is always the butt that decides the head, and the interests that decide the butt." He went to Chengdu. It flew over in the morning. "Meet Zhu Lidong." "I didn't hear that Zhu Lidong didn't move for several days, like a dead pig. He ran to find that law firm this afternoon. Why does he feel that the current situation is a little unclear?" Li Yelong frowned. "It's right that you can't see clearly, it means that life and death are about to be decided." President Li said solemnly, "Call President Sun and ask Lu Feng's whereabouts." Li Yelong called Sun Yuanqing. "Hey, Uncle Sun, I'm Yelong, are you asleep?" Li Yelong said very politely. "Not yet, what's the matter?" Today, Lu Feng went to Chengdu. People disappeared after leaving the airport. "I don't know where they went, do you know? It must be to find the people under his command. Let your dad not worry, this time we cannibalize every step of the way. At the end of April, at the beginning of May, we are going to start the second price war in the market terminal. Wepta will not survive this summer." He didn't go either. "Didn't I find a few people and stare at Zhu Lidong every day? That kid went to contact the lawyer team again today. It seems that he still wants to go to court. Maybe he's staying in a hotel. Whether it's a lawsuit or something, he can't run away this time. It's late. I'll rest first. I'll let my subordinates ask tomorrow to find out." Sun Yuanqing hung up the phone. "It's okay, people can't be lost. If they are lost, it's a good thing," Li Yelong said with a smile. President Li took a deep breath, looked at the dark night outside, and muttered, "I always feel uneasy. The next day, Qian and the three went to the largest local bathing center, the Golden Palace, which has 5 floors and is the most luxurious bathing center in the city. Here, as long as you have money, you can basically get what you want. And the boss Su Dashui likes it very much. He goes here all year round to collect beautiful women. There are also rouge powder, take a bath, get a massage, spend some money and have fun, but above the 3rd floor, it is a private place. There has always been a rumor in the local area about what kind of wine, pond, and meat forest above the 3rd floor of the Golden Palace, but the imagination of this group of poor people can't figure out how people play. In the afternoon, Lu Feng gave money to Qian and the 3 of them. According to the contract, they had already fulfilled the contract. Their 1,000 yuan had become 1,100 yuan overnight. The 3 of them were very excited to get the money. As long as they had enough money in their hands, they were picking up money with sacks. The 3 took out all the money in their pockets, and even went to borrow some from Lisa, and smashed them in Lu Feng's hands again. Lu Feng gave them a contract, and after signing it, it was still the same old rules. In the evening, a few people ate hot pot. First, to celebrate Lu Feng having a stable customer, and second, to celebrate the stable work of the 3 people. There was a knock on Sun Yuenking's office door, and he said a word to come in without raising his head. The door was pushed open, and a middle-aged man walked to the table, and said, "Mr. Sun, I didn't see Lu Feng, except for the original few people, there was no one else, and Zhu Lidong went to the business again today. The bureau is pulling the relationship, but I don't give up. I didn't see a young man? He looked like he was in his 20s. Sun Yuanqing raised his head and asked. Really not, except for a few of them, there is no one who does not know. It shouldn't be, Sun Yuanqing muttered, picked up the phone and called Jiafeng Electronics, transfer your chairman's call. Hello sir, our chairman is not here. If you have an appointment, we can transfer the phone number of President Zhang's office for you. If you don't have an appointment, you can leave a message. Tell you President Zhang, just say I'm Changhong Sun Yuanqing. After that, he hung up the phone. Zhang Fengxia was a little surprised to learn that it was Sun Yuanqing who made the call. Such a person should have contacted Lu Feng directly, and she didn't get rid of it much. After thinking about it, I still called. Hey, is that President's son? I'm Zhang Fengxia, the president of Jiafeng. Zhang Fengxia's tone was businesslike. I just wanted to ask, is Lu Feng there? Mr. Lu is on a business trip. Where are you going? First go to Guangzhou, then Chengdu, and now it should be Chengdu. Why are you asking this? Zhang Fengxia asked. He didn't go to Zhu Lidong and lost his whereabouts. Are you sure he didn't return? You follow him, Zhang Fengxia called out. I'm just worried about President Lu's safety. I'm not calling to tell you, that's all. Sun Yuanqing hung up the phone after finishing speaking. What's the trick again? He leaned back on the chair and touched the top of his head with his hand, thinking about what trick Lu Feng was playing this time. Of course, Zhang Fengxia knew that Lu Feng had already settled in the hotel, but she didn't expect to meet Zhu Lidong, so she thought about calling Lu Feng's room. Who is it? Lu Feng answered the phone. Sun Yuanqing called me and asked about your whereabouts. He followed you. Isn't this normal? I thought it was a problem. I kept calling. I was taking a shower, but I didn't even wash the foam, so I was scared and ran out to answer the phone. Lu Feng said helplessly. I'm afraid you're in danger. When have I ever been in danger? He can't find me now, and it's fine. Let's just do it. You can just treat me as lost, but you can only make trouble in the industry, and don't allow it to be published in newspapers. Maybe you can distract yourself. Lu Feng was talking, the expression on his face was a little mischievous. At this moment, he seemed to be playing completely. Is this okay? I'm afraid to shake the minds of employees. If this thing shakes the minds of the employees, it means that you can't manage it well. That's it. My side is progressing very smoothly. Let's not talk about it, let's go to the bubble. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he hung up the phone and went back to the bathroom. On the 5th floor of the Golden Palace, today is the boss in charge of catering under Mr. Su entertaining the guests. The scene was already very lively, and the girls kept saying hello to the bosses. Although Jian, Jian, and Yuan were just newcomers, they were quite skilled at this kind of show-off. Holding a half glass of red wine, they touched some bosses. The elegant ones talk about literature, dreams, distant places, etc., the nasty ones, they get stuck. These girls are not just playing casually. They will never lose their belts without money. Yuan took a sip of red wine, looked at the bald man in front of her, and said elegantly, "Mr. Yang, do you understand finance?" "I don't see it, you still understand finance," Mr. Yang said in surprise. High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 318. I only understand a little bit. I've been following Nasdaq recently. Are you interested in this? Yuan asked Mr. Yang. The US stock market is indeed a good place to invest, especially in the high-tech sector. The best returns are military stocks, but now foreign-related accounts are very troublesome and difficult to handle. Mr. Yang sighed. This kind of foreign-related stock speculation, you must follow the big consortium and have inside information. You need a big consortium, and you have to have a good trader before you can harvest. Yuan thought for a while and said, "Do you know Goldman Sachs Investment?" Goldman Sachs? Of course I know that, one of the most watched financial companies on Wall Street. Mr. Yang, I have a friend who works at Goldman Sachs Investment. He has a very good way to guarantee returns. He just has no money to start. Before Yuan's words were finished, Mr. Yang walked away with a sneer. Mr. Yang, listen to me, Yuan chased after him. I suddenly have something to do. We have a chance to talk again, don't disturb me. After saying that, Mr. Yang walked towards the other end of the venue and avoided it far away. Yuan sighed, she didn't know the number of bosses tonight, she ran away while chatting, feeling like what she said was like a curse, daunting. The remaining two are in a similar situation, and even if they are interested in them, they are unwilling to talk about these topics again. Nowadays, there are too many people speculating in foreign exchange and stocks in China, and there are many swindlers. Although some bosses have never participated in it, they have heard of many such cases. What is worth tens of millions, has nothing in one night, jumped off the building and died. The stock market is like a tiger. No wonder they don't believe it. The three sisters summed it up in the evening and thought it was better not to tell others about such a good way to make money, but Lu Feng promised a 0.5% rebate, as long as the funds were drawn, they would take a cut. This money is easier to come by. Finance is inherently maddening. Whenever money passes through someone's hand, it will leave a thick layer of oil and water. Yuan and the three of them have seen the huge profits. How can they still be a skilled woman with peace of mind? The next day, Lu Feng handed over 10% of the profits to them. This time, the three of them didn't hesitate at all, they put their money in and said to Lu Feng, could they not take it out and make a profit every day? Lu Feng rejected their idea and told them that the stock market is trading every day, and every sum is a sum of money. We don't need to sign, Mr. Lu, we believe in you, you can put our money back in as long as you call. Qian pleaded. There were not too many people in the cafe. Lu Feng stirred the froth of the instant coffee and sighed, I'll tell you the truth, your money is too little. We have a threshold for a single investment. Millions, all of your money is the money I put into the company, and I got one piece of it. The company said, don't accept such a small investment in the future. The expressions of the three of them changed greatly. Is this kind of profiteering going to miss him? Of course, I also told the company that when I returned to China, I didn't come into contact with any consortium, so please allow me a few times. Lu Feng looked at a few people and said, it is also difficult for me. If there is a large amount of money coming in, I can give you a shot. Lu Feng is forcing them to pull those rich people into the water. The ultimate goal is to pull De Shuisu and Sun Yuanqing into the water. If they are careful, Lu Feng will not be able to drag them for more than a month. The three nodded, feeling the pressure for the first time in their hearts. The urge to crave money made each of them secretly make up their minds that they must bring in a few bosses recently. Unconsciously, he has become Lu Feng's salesman. For more than a day, the news of Lu Feng's disappearance had already spread in a small circle. Sun Yuanqing sent a lot of money to inquire about Lu Feng's news. On the same day, a local bank in Suzhou reported that Jiafeng Electronic Technology Co., Limited mortgaged the factory assembly line in exchange for a mortgage loan of 9 million yuan for a period of 3 months, which was used to transition funds during the difficult period. As soon as the news came out, the entire industry exploded. Jiafeng Electronics has already burned out its money. Coupled with the disappearance of Lu Feng, everyone is thinking about one thing, that is, did Lu Feng run away? Investment failure, high debt, running out of debt, returning to China next week, this kind of operation is too common. After more than 20 years, Mr. Jio will run away. Huang Youwei, who was first frightened, almost fainted when he heard the news. He took a breath and stood up and shouted to Secretary Kui's office, "Contact me with Lu Feng." Secretary Kui had never seen Huang Youwei so out of control. He was so frightened that he almost fell off his chair, ran out in a hurry, and asked, "Who are you looking for?" "Look for Lu Feng." Huang Youwei held the table with his hand, and his heart beat faster at this moment, and he kept thinking in his mind, didn't he get 50 million, and it burned out so quickly? Impossible, absolutely impossible. What he is most afraid of now is that Lu Feng lied to him. Everything before was acting, and he also knew that Lu Feng was a good actor in acting. Secretary Kui immediately called Zhang Fengxia and asked her to tell Lu Feng's location and contact information. Secretary Kui walked in and said, "Lu Feng is in Chengdu and is currently staying at the Sheraton Hotel. This is the phone number of his room." Huang Youwei breathed a sigh of relief, picked up the phone and dialed it. It rang several times before Lu Feng picked it up. "Is that Lu Feng?" Huang Youwei's voice contained a bit of anger. "It's me." "Who?" "Me. Huang Youwei." "Mr. Huang, how did you know the phone number in my room?" Lu Feng asked unexpectedly. "Are you sure you are in the country now? Let me ask you, the 50 million you got at the beginning of the year has been burned out. Why should you mortgage the machines in the factory in exchange for a loan?" Huang Youwei scolded. "Don't be angry, it's so scary." "Can I not be angry? The draft master, I almost died, you know." Huang Youwei couldn't hold back any longer, and shouted, "Your project is a key project in my hands. If you run away, I'm okay. I'll ask you again, are you sure you're in the country? You're calling from China, don't you know?" Lu Feng said speechlessly. "Damn, I'm so angry," Huang Youwei said, holding his forehead with his hand. 5 million burned out. No, there is still a lot left. How long does it take? That is, I have to do a big thing recently, and I will use a lot of funds. I really don't know about the mortgage loan. I will leave it to the president." "It's done," Lu Feng explained. "Are you sure your business is running well?" Huang Youwei asked repeatedly on the phone. "I'm going to send the tax bureau to check the accounts now." Go, just right, it's time to return the tax," Lu Feng wrote lightly. When Huang Youwei heard Lu Feng's confident voice, his heart was stuck in his throat, and he was relieved, but he would definitely send the tax bureau to investigate. After chatting for a while, he hung up the phone. Huang Yue leaned back on the chair, patted his chest with his hand and said, "Sooner or later, I will let this grandson die." "There are rumors in the industry that Lu Feng is missing," Secretary Kui asked in a low voice. Huang Yue subconsciously wanted to tell him, but when he thought that his cousin is from the business world, his mouth is not particularly strict, and it is not something that must be kept secret, he waved his hand and said, "It's okay." When Mr. Li heard these two news, his heart also turned up a huge wave. This happened too suddenly. A few days ago, Lu Feng was still in the industry summit, and he wanted to do it. The whole industry looks like it just broke down in 2 days. The phone rang, and the general manager of Hoken Copper answered the phone and answered several times. "Mr. Li is next to him, do you want to talk to him?" "Okay. Mr. Li, President's son wants to talk to you." Mr. Li went over and put the cigarette butt into the ashtray, took the phone and said, "Hey, Mr. Sun. I can't find anyone, absolutely not in the company, and even Jiafeng Electronics is spreading the news of Lu Feng's disappearance, and he is not at home in Shenzhen. Many people speculate that he ran away with a fake passport." The person on the other end of the phone, Sun Yuanqing, said solemnly, "What do you think? The mortgage machine loan shows that he is really short of money, and from the beginning of the year to the present, according to my estimation, he has been in a state of loss, but I don't know how much money he got. Now the whole industry is in an uproar. Is it possible? He has been holding on, and now he can't hold it anymore. It's also possible, but I feel that this person is very treacherous, and the whole thing is strange. Even if he hides himself, what's the use? What can he do? In doing so, it's easy to shake the market." The two studied for a long time. If Lu Feng did this deliberately, what would be the benefit? They couldn't figure it out. After Jiao Anfan heard the news, he clapped the table and laughed excitedly. In the end, he was the one who won. Anfan's high-end TV was still there, and Wipta was already sunset. Everything is over. One of the advantages of being a missing person is that you won't be disturbed. No matter how disturbed the outside world is, it is very boring for Lu Feng to stay in the hotel at this moment. When I went out in the morning, I found that there was a park not far away, there were many men and women, it was a good place for a walk. He doesn't need to do anything now, he just needs to be stable. The big net has been opened, waiting for the fat sheep to enter the net. After changing his clothes, he went downstairs and walked towards the park like a leisurely stroll. Passing by some stores, Lu Feng found that playing mahjong here is really fierce, and there are mahjong players everywhere. The sound I heard in my ear, except for Ba-shi, was very good. Arriving at the park, after wandering around for half an hour, apart from the young couple, Lu Feng saw more than 20 people standing in an open space. In the middle was a man in his 50s with a goatee and wearing a kung fu suit. Qigong is all about qi. If you have qi in your body, you can move 1,000 jins. Even a 200 jin strong man can't beat you. They practice dead energy. That's useless. This is me, it's useful, you know. Lu Feng laughed, stood aside, folded his arms in front of his chest, watching the excitement. High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 319. The middle-aged man kept explaining the exercises, and from time to time he practiced 2 moves, but those 2 moves seemed so unwilling to do martial arts, more like throwing his hands indiscriminately, which was a little funny. The surrounding disciples kept applauding, giving them extra face. As you can see, there is qi in the body, everything is natural, and this exercise can prevent all kinds of diseases. A few days ago, a person came to me and said that his second uncle was arrested for breaking the law. I was shot and asked if I could save it, and I said I could. The middle-aged man's face was extraordinarily serious, and he looked around and said, I tell you, this kind of dead can be rescued, but it will hurt Danchin very much. I said no. He knelt down and begged me. I couldn't hold him. I begged, agreed, and within 2 days, it was my set of Tianyu and Gongfa, and his uncle survived. Everyone at the scene applauded, and those students' eyes lit up, as if they believed in such absurd things. Seeing these people's high spirits, Lu Feng sighed in his heart. This can be regarded as the death of the era. Now there are many Qigong masters everywhere, and even many of them have ascended during the day. Some local TV stations hold this kind of competition, and there are many offline events. The low-key ones say that they can cure all diseases, strengthen the body, and some absurd, and even say that they can come back to life, change their lives against the sky, and become immortals. All kinds of fees and apprentices. I don't know how many families have been harmed. Qigong is equally famous for its supernatural abilities. 2 things swept through the 1990s. This is also the origin of fantasy novels. Many writers at that time relied on these as background colors to describe the initial fantasy world. As the head of the Tianyuan faction, I am here today to introduce a person, Zhao Bin. The middle-aged man pointed to a man in his 30s. There was a burst of applause at the scene, and the man smiled at everyone. From his clothes, it could be seen that he was not a rich man. He even wore a pair of worn-out Melaleuca soles on his feet, which were all worn out. I'll show you the power of Tianyuan Gongfa. The middle-aged man took a deep breath, made a lucky gesture, and waved to the apprentices beside him, indicating that they could start. What? With a low shout, the boys rushed towards the middle-aged man, aggressive, not to mention a man in his 50s. Even Lu Feng was a little scared when he saw these people. The middle-aged man's face was not afraid, and he patted the man who came back with both hands very easily. As soon as his fingers touched the man's body, which was full of strength, instantly trembled, as if there was high-voltage electricity in that hand. Go. With the sound of go, the man seemed to be hit by some kind of mysterious force, and the whole person stepped back, and an unstable one still rolled on the ground twice, especially embarrassed. The others also rushed up, without exception. It was all this kind of end, rolling everywhere in a moment. It was really ridiculous. However, the man looked at the people who were struggling all over the ground with shock on his face, and he completely surrendered to the power of this exercise. Ha ha ha. Lu Feng couldn't hold back anymore. He covered his mouth with his hand, trying his best not to laugh out loud. The laughter was particularly harsh in such a scene that they thought was extremely shocking, and instantly everyone's eyes were fixed on Lu Feng. Being watched by so many people, Lu Feng waved his hands a little embarrassedly and said, I passed by. What are you laughing at? The middle-aged man glanced at it and shouted, how dare you laugh at this sect? If you don't want to die, get out of here. His group of apprentices all stood up. There were so many people that Lu Feng didn't want to cause more trouble, so he said something embarrassing and was ready to leave. The man might think that Lu Feng receded so easily and didn't dare to cause trouble, so he said, young man, if you offend the sect master, and you just leave so easily, you don't take me seriously, right? Lu Feng stopped when he was about to leave because there were 2 young men in front of him. I just passed by. Lu Feng spread his hands helplessly and said, could it be that you still want to beat me? Hit you? Can you stand a slap from this sect master? The man said arrogantly towards the man who was about to enter the school. Look, he is like this, just need a slap, he will be shaken into a slap. Internal injury. What? With a sudden shout, a palm hit Lu Feng's chest. His palm still had some strength, and he suddenly pushed Lu Feng back 2 steps. The next second, Lu Feng reacted and grabbed his wrist. Don't look at him now, safe and sound. The 8 extraordinary meridians have been shaken out of internal injuries, and he will vomit blood and die within a few days, the power of, you know. The other party nodded like garlic, looking at Lu Feng with a bit of pity. He was dying at a young age. The head wanted to take his hand back, but found Lu Feng pinched tightly, and turned around and said, "Young man, I advise you to let go. It's too late to go to the hospital now, or you'll be shocked if I exert my strength." "Dead? Come on, give me a shock," Lu Feng stared at him and said coldly. "This old boy, he doesn't want to pay attention to him. He is still motivated. If he wants to go, will he not let him go? Young man, I'll give you another chance, life is precious." His voice was full of threats. The dozen or so young apprentices next to him were already staring at Lu Feng with bad expressions, and the meaning was very clear. Lu Feng looked around, looked at him and said, "Zhen, you won't kill me, you are my grandson." The head of the family never thought that there would be someone like Lu Feng in this world who doesn't know how to lift. The other party made 3 or 4 merits in a row, and Lu Feng stood there motionless, and the scene was a little awkward for a moment. "Master, it's not that." Lu Feng thought he was going to be embarrassed, but what he didn't expect was that this head was very complicated. His expression changed, and he stared at Lu Feng and shouted, "Who are you?" "I'm on the road." "Pass," Lu Feng said angrily. "You are absolutely extraordinary. I have such a strong skill. When you hit your body, you actually have a chi that pushes my chi out, plus my luck just pushed back my apprentices." The Qigong was damaged and could not exert its full power. Peak strength. The leader stared at Lu Feng and said, "You actually want to deceive passers-by to deceive me." Lu Feng was stunned by his wit, and he secretly cried out in his heart, "This is okay." An obvious scam, so he rounded it up. He was forced to become a master, and he still had the feeling that he had just finished his studies and had just come down from the mountain. Because the master's skill is damaged, and the disciples still don't form a battle against the enemy, the leader shouted, "This move is really wonderful." Even Lu Feng wanted to applaud him. It not only covered up the fact that he was nothing, but also made it reasonable to let more than a dozen people beat Lu Feng. The new student over there would definitely not see the flaw. Seeing that the crowd was besieging him, Lu Feng released his wrist, looked at them and said, "If you dare to cause trouble, I will call the police." The sect leader winked at everyone. They came out to make money, not to fight. "I think you are the first offender, don't care about you, don't commit it again in the future." The head stared at Lu Feng and said very seriously, "I can sense that there is a chi in your body, it should be injected into your body by a master." Lu Feng looked at his serious nonsense and said, "Yes, these chi in my body are fighting chi. In fact, I am also a practitioner, but I only practice fighting chi. I have 3 levels of fighting power, so let's not pass it. Bye-bye." Lu Feng didn't want to mess with him anymore. He clasped his fists and turned his head away. The other party saw that Lu Feng was giving face and pretended not to pursue it. Instead, he turned his head and said to the new apprentice, "You see, this is Jianghu. There are a lot of Qigong practitioners in this park, and many of them are selling medicinal herbs and exercises." When Lu Feng walked out of the park and was about to go to the hotel, he met the new apprentice just now. He also saw Lu Feng, ran over with a look of surprise, and asked, "Are you all right? I see that the grudge you practiced is quite powerful. Where did you learn it?" "I learned it in Dochi continent," Lu Feng teased. "Which city?" Lu Feng didn't know how to answer him, looked at him and said, "Live a good life, those Qigongs are all fake. You didn't join his sect, did you?" "I wanted to join, but I ran out of money. I bought Tianyuan Gongfa." He took out a thread-bound book from his arms full of excitement, with traditional Chinese characters written on it. Picture. "How much did you spend on this?" 1,818, I originally wanted 2,003. The head said that I was talented and smart, so he accepted so much. which is considered good luck. The man grinned, obviously very happy about this kind of cheap thing. The most important thing is that he is actually very suitable for practicing Qigong. Seeing him like this, Lu Feng could only sigh. There are so many people who have been deceived, and he is just one of them. Why are you sighing? The headmaster said that I practice Qigong very quickly. Once I practice Qigong, I can cure my mother. The man's eyes flashed with longing for the future. Cure? Lu Feng covered his head with his hands and asked, what's the disease? Can't you have the money to go to the hospital? The hospital can't cure it. What kind of cancer is it? The man's face darkened and he said, the head said that as long as you reach the 3rd level, you can cure cancer. Lu Feng really wanted to tell him the truth, but the hope in his eyes made Lu Feng a little unbearable. Then why don't you just let that head take care of it? It will cost less. It's not a day's work. I learned it myself. If you don't ask for help, you can still make money. He grinned, extraordinarily happy. Lu Feng didn't have much to say. He took out more than 100 yuan from his pocket, put it in his hand, and said, this money is your fate, and it's not allowed to buy any secrets or exercises. Take it and buy a pair of shoes, and get your mother something to eat and wear. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he turned his head and left. Which province is Dochi continent in? Can you buy that exercise? The man shouted to Lu Feng. High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 320. Back at the hotel, Lu Feng was sitting in the restaurant, looking at the standard smile on Butler Wang in front of him. Every era has wounds. In every era, that is, these people have low knowledge, but they are extremely eager to get everything they want through a simple thing. It's like playing a drum to pass flowers, except that these things pass fried eggs, which will eventually explode in one person's hands. In life, people have their own desires, and when they get what they want, they begin to put forward their own demands towards some unwarranted things. These Qigong masters use the banners of curing diseases, longevity, wealth, and social status. In fact, from the point of view, it is enough to see that the people of this era are full of various desires. They are struggling in the tide of the times and can stand above the tide, but only a few people, the rest are all submerged. The operation of these masters has the shadow of various microloan methods in later generations, promising all kinds of illusory things, stimulating the desires in the hearts of the people, constantly hinting you, and then making you feel at ease in an instant. It also understands the essence of marketing. Lu Feng laughed at himself. He does not reject capital. He has been in business for 2 generations. He has long understood a truth. Capital is easy to manage, but people's hearts are difficult to manage. Capitalists' hearts are even more difficult to manage. Please taste the foie gras, this is us. A well-dressed waiter next to him saw that Lu Feng didn't do anything, and while introducing, he cut the food and put it on the plate in front of Lu Feng. You go out. Butler Wang came over, hunched over, and said, what's wrong with what we're doing? You can give us your opinion, and we'll improve it immediately. I just want to be quiet. Okay, Butler Wang waved at everyone, and everyone walked out. Lu Feng was sitting alone in a large room eating, feeling quite emotional. After thinking a lot, he felt that it was useless to think so much. When he returned to the room, he did not turn on the light. A person is sitting quietly in a dark room, and the city outside the window is already brightly lit. It's hypocritical. Lu Feng sneered and reached out to turn on the light. Everyone has moments like this. Touched by something, the whole person fell into silence for a moment, and began to sigh about life. After a long sigh, there was a burst of emptiness. The difference is that poor people have no one to talk about. Even if they do, they will be laughed at and scolded for being hypocritical. Lu Feng is different. He can call many people, and no one will talk about him. Instead, he will have a feeling of empathy. Status. If you have money, you can make people feel the same way about you. The matter of Lu Feng's disappearance is still fermenting, and the matter has developed to the point where, let alone outsiders, even people in the circle can't see the fog clearly. The three words Wiaputa have always been accompanied by controversy, and there is no lack of topicality. Under the night, major newspapers are busy with the layout of tomorrow's news. When selecting news types, many newspapers are concerned about GFN electronics. On the front page. In addition, the banks that GFN Electronics contacted were all overwhelmed by various interview calls. After Zhuang Yuntian heard the news, he was so frightened that he couldn't even eat. He called Lu Feng several times and no one answered. Then I called the company's business office. Due to the too many calls for interviews, I couldn't get through. Zhuang Yuntian, who was in Xiangjiang, understood at this moment what it means to live like a year. If the 50 million yuan was really lost, he would not be able to jump off the building in time, and even called Huang Youwei's office in a hurry. One of Lu Feng's actions triggered a chain reaction of all parties. Under the same night, everyone's mind and state were different, and only Lu Feng was sleeping soundly. Tonight, another grand dinner is being held on the 4th floor of the Golden Palace. This is the running water table. Every day, all kinds of bosses are here to change their glasses. I don't know how many times to raise their glasses under the bright lights. Jian was wearing an off-the-shoulder evening dress, looking for a target with a wine glass in his hand. In a few days, there were many bosses who approached them, but when it came to financial-related issues, his face immediately changed. Looking at the bosses one by one, a familiar person was found in the crowd, Mr. Yang. The pointed model Jinlian walked away. Halfway through, an ugly, short bald man stared at her with glowing eyes, stretched out his hand and grabbed her slender arm, and said, "Beauty, have a drink." "Hello," Jian looked at him and touched the quilt in his hand. "How much is it for you?" The man sipped the red wine in his glass and said bluntly. Jian frowned slightly when she heard such blatant words. Although she was also in the flesh business, she always felt that she was a good lady, and that she was always in contact with bosses. Especially when she stayed with Lu Feng recently, she really hated this kind of ugly and frustrated man, and she couldn't even act in a show. "Please respect me." Jian shook off his hand and left. After the man was rejected, his face was a little annoyed, and he scolded, turned his eyes, and saw another girl. He smiled, and walked over with a bit of drunkenness. "Mr. Yang, are you drinking alone here?" Jian walked to the bar and sat down, and asked with a smile. "Who are you?" Mr. Yang looked at Jian, his body was full of alcohol. "You came the day before yesterday to attend the banquet hosted by President Zhao. You had a great time chatting with me that day." "Forget, there are so many people coming and going, how can I remember?" he simply said. "I don't have the heart to play with you, and I don't have the money to play with you. It's vulgar to mention money, I like to talk about love." Jian touched the cup and said, "Drink one." President Yang was a little surprised. After all, how many women in this place don't talk about money? Yuan and Qian saw that she was looking for President Yang again, and they hurried over. The three beauties were with each other, and the atmosphere was warm, but President Yang always seemed to be very worried. "If you have anything on your mind, you can tell us, it will be much better if you say it." "Yeah, did you quarrel with your wife?" "My wife and I haven't seen each other for almost 2 years. If it's about her, it's easy to say." Mr. Yang sighed, unable to hold back the words in his heart. Said, "Out of the hole." "Hole? What hole?" "Financial hole, a big hole of 700,000 yuan, this quarter will be over soon, I can't hide it." Yang Zhongzhou covered his face with his hands. At the beginning of the year, he embezzled 1 million from the company and used it to make it for a friend. Bridge, It took 15 days and it turned out that it was 2 or 3 months, and there was still 700,000 to pay. Short of money? Kinkin's 3 girls looked at each other and smiled knowingly. For a boss like you, 700,000 is still a small amount of money. I have 700,000, but I don't have cash. My car, house, and shares can't be cashed in for a while, Mr. Yang said. The more worried he became, and he took a glass of wine and drank it. Although everyone in the circle has money, not everyone can borrow 700,000 yuan. As for the mortgage loan, what he is most afraid of now is that his friends will not return the money to him, and in the end he has nothing. Mr. Yang, I have a way to get money. It depends on whether you want to do it or not. I told you before, Yuan said. What way? I have a friend who is invested by Goldman Sachs. He has first-hand trading information, and he can make a steady profit without losing money. When Mr. Yang heard this, he immediately remembered that there are many girls here, dangling and dazzling, all of them are vases, but Yuan, the girl who understands finance, is still fresh in his memory. Is there a business that can make a profit without losing money? Mr. Yang asked suspiciously. You can give it a try. The 3 of us have been investing. I'll tell you the truth. After pulling you in, you will give us 0.5% of your profits. How much is the stable income? 15%, but they will charge 5% and give us 0.5%. When President Yang heard such a high handling fee, he believed it in his heart. After all, it was a high profit. Where would the world get lunch for nothing? He is a businessman, and he is more willing to believe that others work for their own interests. After a little pondering, he still decided to give it a try, and he was already forced to do so. Where is this man? I'll take you to see you tomorrow. The next day, at 6 o'clock in the morning, the sky was slightly bright, and there were several pedestrians scattered on the street. Yuan got out of the taxi and trotted all the way into the Sheraton Hotel. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. The hurried knock on the door completely woke Lu Feng, who was about to wake up. He sat up and said unhappily, "Who is it?" "It's me, Yuan." Lu Feng put on his trousers, walked to the door, opened the door and saw Yuan anxiously, and asked, "What are you doing in the early morning?" "Someone invested money," Yuan exclaimed excitedly. "It's a rich boss, like the general manager of some company." "Is that so?" Lu Feng opened his confused eyes, stepped aside in front of the door, let her in, and asked, "Did you meet in the Golden Palace of Marshal Su?" "Yes, there was a banquet last night, Mr. Yang." Yuan explained the matter in its entirety. Of course, she would not tell Lu Feng that when she was in the Golden Palace, she was scolded by those bosses. Instead, she said how she learned about finance these days and had done her homework. Show a positive look. That sentence is really good. If you say that a girl who is in finance is in trouble, it will definitely be degenerate, but when a young lady is picking up customers, she still works hard to study finance, which is a lot of inspiration. While saying that she was working hard, Yuan also spoiled the words of Jian and Qian. When she saw the boss, she would throw her arms in her arms, and what kind of games did she play with a few old men? Connected. Lu Feng naturally understood what she meant, and didn't say much, as long as he was sure that he was from the circle of Dashui Su. How much? I don't know. He doesn't seem to believe it very much. It is estimated that he voted less for the first time. It's okay, it's a good start. After Lu Feng agreed with her on the time and place, he sent Yuan away and began to pack up and change clothes. After waiting here for a few days, it was finally his turn to perform. High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list.